This presentation is about emergency and long-term food storage. This will be in two parts: prepackaged food options and storage containers and different kinds of foods that can be stored yourself in a long-term basis. I'm going to show you different companies that have products that you can purchase that have a shelf life of up to 20 years for emergency and long-term food storage. This one here is Alpine Air Foods, and they are available from BassPro.com, which is the Bass Pro sporting goods store website. So you could probably go to Bass Pro stores locally and buy them off the shelf. Also, Cabela's got purchased by Bass Pro, so you might also check Cabela's website or their local stores if you have them in your area. Another brand is Survive to Thrive. This particular package, and by the way, I did not use as examples long-term food storage products that included meat, because most of you are vegetarians. I also looked for ones that were vegan and that were gluten-free. So in this case, this is organic and vegan and non-GMO, and this is a package for 40 days and nights worth of food for an individual, and it is $289.99. It has a shelf life is 10 to 15 years. There's 285 total servings, and it doesn't have any preservatives. And that ends up being less than $2 a meal. So this could be used for camping, or more importantly, for storing for long-term emergencies. A real common brand that we like is Artisan Farms, and these can be purchased online, or we have found them locally in stores in some cases. We'll talk about that later. So here are some examples of some of their products. They have black bean burger, which is a veggie burger. Here you can see it has it doesn't say here how many servings, but it's a large tin can with TVP kind of product inside that you could dole out in individual patties, and so you can make the patties as big as you want, and therefore the serving sizes would adjust according to how big a patties you made. But $22. They also have dried peanut butter, and you can buy a variety pack, a 6 variety pack of different kinds of veg meat. Here's chicken flavored vegetarian meat, lentil beans, black bean burger again in 6 packs, pinto beans, lentils, freeze-dried blackberries, freeze-dried whole blueberries. There's the black bean burger again, and honey powder. I found that interesting. Didn't know you could make powder out of honey. And obviously, if you were trying to use it as a sweetener in cooking and that sort of thing, that might be useful. This is another company that's Honeyville. Honeyville is, I believe, a Mormon company. We've seen them physical stores in Mesa. They're in Salt Lake and places where there are a number of Mormons. And this particular category is vegan. So here they have freeze-dried apples, apricots, asparagus, dried bananas, bell peppers, and blackberries. Another company that I found online is Food Storage Guys. I hadn't heard of them before, but they make vegan and gluten-free long-term food storage. So if your needs have to be gluten-free and vegan, they happen to have some products. They come in these boxes. And this one has a shelf life of 25 years. It's 2,000 calories a day for a primary food supply for $700. And you can think, well, wow, $700, that's a lot of money. But when you think about 2,000 calories a day, and this is a large quantity of food, for instance, it can do one person for 3 months. So that means for, a little under $200 or a little over $200, you could be living with prepackaged foods. And this appears to be Rainy Day Foods is the brand, which I haven't heard before, but this is the place to get it. And here they give the details about it being gluten and vegetarian, plant-based, 3-month food supply, good for 25 years. You'll notice that you need to store it between 35 degrees, so it shouldn't freeze, and up to 70 degrees, so it shouldn't be really hot or really cold, otherwise it shortens the life of the food. Each metal can has a plastic lid, so once the can is opened, you can use it to reseal and continue to use it up to a year after you've opened the can. So here are some of the examples of what's in the can. You've got string beans, corn, cauliflower, broccoli, peas, some kind of a mixture, hash browns, mashed potatoes, and a stew. And again, this is all vegan and gluten-free. It also has bananas, raisins, apple slices, pancake blueberries, I would assume that is, rice, some other mixture of vegetable rice, some hot cereal, muffin mix, etc. Cornbread, beans. You can see there's a wide variety of things in this package, and it looks pretty yummy according to the pictures. So here's what is in this packet. Green beans, sweet corn, cauliflower, broccoli, garden peas, potato dices, hash browns, potato flakes, vegetable stew, bananas, raisins, apple slices, gluten-free flour, all kinds of things, beans, seasonings. So this is a pretty all-round deal, and you can buy them in different configurations from $45, $700, clear up to thousands of dollars if you want to really stockpile. Here's another brand, Emergency Food Supply. This has 275 servings, and it holds a shelf life of 20 years. Ready to eat, and it's $174. Here are some that I found on the Walmart website. And by the way, you may notice on many of these it says out of stock. At the time we're making this recording, we are in the midst of the pandemic of 2020. So many of these kinds of things are low supply. And we've, of course, seen that with things from toilet paper to seeds. So this is that kind of a category. People are concerned about sustainability and long-term storage, so it's not a surprise that some of these are out of stock, quite a few actually. So you'd have to shop around just to find out what would be available at the time at which you would want to purchase something. So this is called the Deluxe Survivor Variety Food Storage Bucket. It has 700 servings for $258 at Walmart. And this is vegetarian. Costco is another place that from time to time you'll find these items. This is freeze-dried fruit. This is called Easy Prep. The bucket has 168 servings for 120 bucks. Now we'll talk about storage containers, last of all. These lids are available from Costco, and you will notice that it's limit 2 per customer. Here again, this is because of the pandemic. They're limiting quantities of buying toilet paper and things. Well, Gamma lids are in high demand as well for the same reasons. This particular brand is called a Twister Seal lid. Comes in 3 colors with a total of 12 for $89. And these are leak-proof and airtight, and they're food grade. And so, it looks to me like you can buy 12 red or 12 white or 12 blue. So you don't have to have the mixture. And so these lids can be purchased from Costco. And the way they work is you take a 5-gallon food grade paint bucket or 6-gallon, and you unscrew the lid, and it leaves the ring, and you hammer the ring onto the bucket, and it's quite tight to get on. Once it's on, it's really on, and that's because it's airtight and waterproof and all that. And then this ring screws in and out, or the lid, fairly easily once the ring is mounted on the bucket. The most common brand is called a Gamma lid, and they're really quality, and they come in these different colors, and you can make a pail into a storage container. And you can also buy the buckets. This is a place called USA Emergency Supply, and you can buy 5-gallon or 6-gallon buckets, and they're a really good quality deal. And then these Gamma lids will fit on them. So this concludes my portion of this presentation regarding the different kinds of things you can purchase pre-made, whether it's freeze-dried or some other type of long-term storage food packages, as well as containers that you can acquire to do your own packaging of long-term storage. Some local places where you can look is Costco, like I said, and Walmart, but also Winco. Winco, if you have it in your area, has a whole small section of sustainability products, including artisan, canned, dried foods, and Gamma lids and the pails.
Long-term food storage, what you should know. First of all humans need food. The typical length of time a person can live without food is stated to be about 21 days or 3 weeks. If you look in the Bible and see how long Jesus went without food, Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. And Matthew 4:2 says he was hungry. He was tempted by food, by Satan. And Satan will tempt us with food too if we are not training our palate to be what God has designed, or eating things that we shouldn't, and even eating things that maybe we should, but in excess, Satan will tempt us with those things. But Jesus answered, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." And that's how we should respond as well. So not only is food providing sustenance, but so is the word of God. In 2 Chronicles chapter 29 to 32, King Hezekiah, one of the good kings of Israel, is chronicled there. And he prepared for hard times. He prepared the children of Israel, the people of Israel, by doing 2 different things, spiritual preparation and physical preparation. For spiritual preparation, he brought Israel back to God and reinstituted the worshiping of the true God and the temple services. And for physical preparation, including food and the building of Hezekiah's tunnel for water, and building the walls around Jerusalem, he prepared for the Assyrian army's siege upon Jerusalem. And God honored that and protected them through that period of time. So King Hezekiah prepared. It's a story for our time that as we should prepare for the times ahead, Hezekiah prepared for the times ahead for his people Israel. But there is a time that we have very little physical preparation for, and that's one like Elijah's experience by the brook Cherith in 1 Kings chapter 17, where ravens brought him food and the brook provided water. And God even extended the amount of food that was available and water when he was directed to the widow of Zarephath partway through the period of no rain. So God, with our faith, honors our faith and can provide and will provide for our needs during the time of great trouble, during the time of Jacob's trouble. So when we're told to flee and leave all our resources behind and be completely sustained on our own, God will provide. So humans need calories in order to exist. So when you're thinking about storing food, think about calorically dense foods that can sustain the activity that you expect to engage in during any time of food need or shortage. Basic metabolism at rest. So this is just to keep your body going at a basic at-rest metabolism is up to 2,500 calories per day. If you're someone who's very physically active, we're going to be doing hard physical labor. It can be 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day or more depending on the activity. So keep that in mind as you're storing food, thinking about calorically dense and rich foods to sustain the activity that is required. So when you're storing food, there are 6 enemies of food storage. First, there's temperature, and you want to maintain your food stored between 40 and 70 degrees. Every 18 degrees above or below that decreases its shelf life by 50%. Oxygen or oxidation, that's basically oxygen damaging the food or the molecular structure that makes up the food. And typically it activates onto fats, so rancidity, that's what happens when fats go bad. Bacteria and bugs, so if you can keep the oxygen out, the bugs won't thrive. Light also can destroy nutrients. That's the third enemy of food storage, and primarily the fat-soluble vitamins are the ones that light affect. Vitamins A, D, and E. It can also affect the color and other aspects. Moisture can promote mold and bacteria and break down the packaging if you're using packaging that the food comes in. If you're storing it in secondary packaging like Mylar bags or plastic buckets, it'll be more resistant to moisture. But if you're in a high moisture environment, it can still find its way in. Other pests like bugs and rodents and things like that, you want to make sure that those are kept at a minimum or eliminated. And then time. Time tends to break things down over periods of time. Nutrition, taste, appearance will all go down over the course of time. So when we're thinking about food that stores for a long period of time, here are some of those good ones that are able to store for a long period. So some champions for food storage. Number 1 includes freeze drying. It takes some additional equipment. You can see the Harvest Right freeze dryer right there. You can pre-purchase freeze-dried food too, but it maintains the nutrient value and the taste and flavor for a long period of time. They can last up to 20 years. You can buy prepackaged ones as well. You can see the buckets here of some freeze-dried food that's available. You can do this for all kinds of fruits and vegetables. It's probably the gold standard in food preservation because it maintains the nutrient density throughout. You will need to have water, however, to make sure that you can rehydrate it and utilize it. Honey is a great natural sweetener. Raw honey is what you want. You don't want pasteurized honey. Pasteurized honey has been heated and made devoid of all its biotic factors. It will crystallize over time, but they found it in the Egyptian tombs and can be good for thousands of years. So you just need to be able to have heat in order to liquefy it again, but not boil it. It can have about 20 years of storage life very easily. As it said, thousands of years found in the Egyptian tombs, and it was still good. So raw honey has many biotic factors, including pollen, that are healthful. People often find that using raw honey In areas where they're prone to allergies, if they use honey from that area, they're less allergic to the pollen that is present there. And honey can also function as an antibiotic on wounds and things of that nature. Another champion is rolled oats. You want the old-fashioned rolled oats, not the quick, not the whole, perhaps steel-cut oats, although not all whole grains store the same. The more whole grain, the more fats are going to be present and the more potential there is for rancidity and going bad. The key thing for storing old-fashioned rolled oats is to remove them from their packaging and put them into something that is stable, like this shows quart jars. You can also do it in Mylar bags or buckets. Make sure that in those packagings, whether it's vacuum sealed or buckets or jars, that you have O2 oxygen absorbers in there as well to absorb any oxygen. That helps keep it dry and keeps it bug-free and keeps them from breaking down with oxygen oxidization. Can last up to upwards of 30 years, so this is a real champion for long-term food storage. Dry pasta. Be sure to remove from the plastic packaging and put it into a cool, dark, oxygen-free environment using those Mylar bags and buckets and oxygen absorbers again. More durable than spaghetti are macaroni, penne, and fusilli, like the little curlies here, the twisted ones. So those are more durable. The spaghetti could get broken up and abused if it's just not, it's more delicate than the other more robust pastas. Again, 20 years or better for its storage time, as long as you keep it cool, dark, and O2 free. You can dehydrate and store the sauce as well. Dried fruits and vegetables. They must be vacuum sealed and have oxygen absorbers present, and make sure they're moisture free. They can last for decades, a very long time. So just make sure they're very well dehydrated, very moisture free, so they don't have bacteria or other growth that could occur on them. So dried fruit and vegetables are a great addition to your food stores. Never really think about storing water, but water could be a good thing to store. It has an almost indefinite storage life if you have it initially stored in clean containers, and then make sure they're sealed. Glass is probably the best storage container since there's no leaching that takes place. Some stainless steels or other metals could also be used. It's important, of course, for drinking and vital for cooking. If you're concerned about potential contaminants, plan to have a filter. This Berkeley filter that's shown here can filter multiple gallons during a period of time. And other charcoal-based filters are available too. So pick one that works best for you. Whole wheat berries. That's the grain itself that you could plant and sprout and actually eat the grain from it. So not all whole grains store the same. Some have better storage capacity than others, but wheat berries have a longevity that most grains don't. So 20 years or more with wheat berries. They must be in a sealed, oxygen-free environment. The oxygen absorbers are here. Emergency Supply USA is the company that provides or makes this particular type of oxygen absorber, but there are other companies that make them as well, and they're readily available. Sugar and salt. These both store indefinitely, but they do need to be kept dry in order to keep them from caking and becoming unusable without effort. That's the key component to storage. It makes food palatable. A little sugar makes the medicine go down, and salt brings the flavor out. You want to use salts that don't have fillers. So Redmond or Celtic or Himalayan sea salts, if they're sea salt, they're going to have some iodine in them. They're not going to be iodized. Iodized salt has a lot more iodine added to it. If you're living in a state or place that's close to an ocean, you already have iodine inherently present in the soil and landscape and the rain, so the plants have it naturally occurring in them because of the closeness to the ocean and the water that comes from the ocean. Sugar, you're going to want to use sugar in the raw, or as an alternative, you could use stevia as a natural sweetener, as opposed to using just your store variety brand cane sugar. Beet sugar typically is genetically modified. Cane sugar that's white is usually processed through bone char. So if you're concerned about that, you want to go with the sugar in the raw that has not been hyper-filtered. The champion 25 to 35 years is potato flakes. You can buy them commercially. Here's Bob's Red Mill, but you can get them from other manufacturers as well. Make sure you take them out of their packaging and put them into Mylar sealed bags that are more impervious to penetration by oxygen or insects, and then put them in the gamma lid sealed buckets with their O2 absorbers in them. You can also make your own homemade potato flakes, which takes a bit of doing. Boiling your potatoes, mashing them, dehydrating them in the oven, and then breaking them up and sealing them away. So you can make mashed potatoes, of course, with those, but you can also do pancakes, bread, lots of other things that you can use potato flakes for. Some other indefinite storage ones, long-term. Soy sauce has an indefinite storage life as long as it's in its original container. Glass, again, is a great storage container. Worcester sauce left in this packaging. Maple syrup, once it's been opened, it needs to be refrigerated, but prior to then, especially if it's in a glass container, has an indefinite storage life. And sweeteners and sauces like that can definitely make your eating experience more pleasurable and enjoyable, and you want to make sure that you pack away some of those little treats too. Vinegar can be helpful, not only from a food prep perspective in cleaning, but also medicinal, and it has an indefinite storage life. So pack some of that away. Actually, you can buy it in gallon jugs and just have that in your storage lineup. White rice, this is a great one, 30 years for storage of white rice. Make sure it's in an O2 free environment again. Brown rice, while more nutritious when it's fresh, will go rancid much more quicker and will go rancid as compared to white rice, because white rice has been polished and has the fats and most of the nutrients removed, but brown rice has those fats present, which can go rancid as oxygen is as it's exposed to oxygen. So some keys to keeping your food bug-free: oxygen absorbers in those Mylar bags. They prevent oxidation and also prevent insects from proliferating because they don't have the oxygen there to do that. Also, you can use a natural method. Popping some bay leaves in keeps insects from getting in and bothering your food storage. You can use that just in your general storage, but also in your long-term food storage. A great book that helped guide through this process for our family was The Prepper's Guide to Food Storage by Gay Levy at www.backdoorsurvival.com. So as you're thinking about food that you store, I've shared some of the long-term granddaddies of food storage, but there are others that are also available. This book has a number of tables in it that share shelf life of properly stored foods of various types. But be creative. Expand your list to think about different foods that you will eat. Store the things that you like to eat. If you store things you don't like to eat, it won't be as much fun to eat them in a time when food is scarce, although you will eat most anything probably when you're hungry. But think ahead about things that you enjoy and have those things available for your family.